We shall commence this module by discussing about risk and uncertainty, expected value, variance and risk preference in brief. Risk and uncertainty. In layman words, risk is the possibility of suffering harm or loss, danger, or the probability of loss to an insurer, while uncertainty is the condition of being in doubt or unpredictability, indefiniteness. Uncertainty is a contingency that defines the occurrence or non-occurrence of an event. Thus, uncertainty is always either 1 or 0. Risk is the probability of the occurrence of an event. Therefore, the value of risk also lies between 0 and 1. But when we talk about financial markets, these two words are not used interchangeably. They carry different meanings. Risk is used when we can assign a certain degree of probability to the happening of an event, that is, we have a priori information or historical evidence about the happening of an event. For example, when we toss a coin, we know that the outcome will be either a heads or a tail. So, we can assign 50% probability, that is half, to each of the outcomes. On the contrary, uncertainty arises when we cannot assign subjective probabilities to the happenings of any random events. For example, one cannot figure out the day his or her prayers will make him or her meet God, because such an event does not have any historical precedence. Thus, uncertainty refers to a situation in which individuals cannot form probabilities for outcomes, or because they cannot estimate the probabilities to assign to outcomes. So, our major concern in financial markets is associated with risk. Before going further, let us first familiarize ourselves with a few important concepts which are closely associated with the risk calculation. Expected value. While calculating risk, we assign certain probabilities of the happening of the particular event. These probabilities are basically the average values assigned to the possible outcomes and the result. That is, the expected value is the weighted average of these probabilities. Algebraically, let xi denote the possible outcomes of a random event and pi be the probability assigned to the happening of these random events. Then, the expected value will be Ex is equals to P1 into x1 plus P2 into x2 plus and so on till Pn into xn, which is equals to summation Pi xi, where I goes from 1 to n, such that summation Pi, where I goes to 1 to n, is equals to P1 plus P2 plus and so on till Pn is equals to 1. Thus, expected value will give the average value that a particular event would occur with a given amount of risk. Variance. Variance is a measure of risk, basically tells the dispersion or the deviation of the actual outcome from the expected outcome. The more the deviation, the higher the risk associated with the happening of the event. Statistically, variance is the weighted sum of the square deviations of the potential outcomes xi from the expected value Ex. The weights used are the probabilities of each outcome occurring, Pi. Algebraically, variance equals P1 into x1 minus Ex1 square plus P2 into x2 minus Ex2 whole square plus and so on till Pn into xn minus Exn square, which is also equals to Pi into xi minus Ex ka whole square, where I goes from 1 to n. Another statistical measure which some economists use while measuring risk is standard deviation. It is the square root of the variance. Both the measures work in the same direction. For simplification, we will further use only variance to measure the risk. Risk preference. According to risk preference, we can categorize our investors into three segments. First, being the risk averse. They prefer a sure investment opportunity rather than a risky one. Second, being the risk lover. They prefer to take a risky investment opportunity to a sure one in anticipation of higher returns associated with that opportunity. The third category falls between these two, that is being risk neutral. They are indifferent between any of the investment opportunities available to them. Depending upon their performance for risk, they get varied returns as the price of the investment also varies with the level of the risk involved in it. After studying this module, you shall be able to differentiate between risk and uncertainty, understand various concepts which are closely associated with risk, calculate expected value, variance and risk preference. Let us now understand the risk and its relationship with the interest rate. In this section, we will study the different types of risk and how they affect the prices, yields and interest rates of different financial instruments. The first one among them is the default risk. If a borrower of a loan fails to pay back the borrowed amount, whether principal or interest or both, the risk involved is the default risk. Similarly, if the issuer of the bond fails to repay the amount borrowed from the bondholder, the risk is called to be default risk. In other words, default risk is related to the credit worthiness of the issuer of a particular debt instrument. This risk becomes zero if it is being issued by the government or central monetary authority of a country, commonly known as government bonds. It is often called a default-free bond, but in case of corporate bonds, they are exposing to a certain level of risk as these firms can suffer a loss or might go bankrupt before the bond gets mature. Another main point is the credibility of the bondholder. Sometimes banks offer different interest rates to different customers depending upon their credit worthiness. For example, if a loan is given to a typical individual, the bank might charge a higher interest rate that will cover the risk of default by the individual. But if the same bank is providing a loan to their bona fide customers or a corporate house which bears a good reputation in the market, then the bank may charge a lower rate of interest to attract the customers, and also the probability of default is low or even negligible. This lower interest rate charged by the bank is called the prime rate, and the difference between the interest rate on a risky asset and that on a risk-free asset is known as the risk premium. Default risk premium is the premium paid by the borrower to the lender to compensate to the risk of default involved in the loan transaction. Here is the graph that shows the relationship between the interest rate when charged to an individual and to the business corporate. The additional interest rate over and above the prime interest rate paid by the individual borrower is default risk premium, that is 4% here. Next is the relationship between bond price and yield. Consider two bonds with a maturity of 1 year, one being a government bond represented by BG and other being a corporate bond represented by BC, both having a common face value of INR 1000 and a coupon rate of 5%. For the government bond, there being no risk of default, the maturity value will be 1050 rupees, whereas for the corporate bond, consider the default risk to be 10%. So, there is 90% chance that the firm will pay its obligation and the bondholder will receive 1050 rupees and 10% chance that the bondholder will not receive anything. So, the expected maturity value for this bond will be is equals to 0.9 into 1050 plus 0.1 into 0, which is equals to 945. Thus, the present value of these bonds will be equals to, present value for the government bond will be equals to 1050 divided by 1.05, which is equals to 1000, and present value for the corporate bond will be 945 divided by 1.05, which is equals to 900. In both the scenarios, the yield to maturity comes out to be BG is equals to 5% and that of BC is equals to 16.7%. The difference 11.7% represents the default risk premium. So, it can be inferred that two bonds with same maturity, coupon rate and face value differs in price and the yield to maturity because of their differing risk of default. Let us now understand the liquidity risk. The risk that arises from the difficulty of selling an asset prior to its maturity is known as liquidity risk. In other words, liquidity risk refers to the ability of a debt instrument of being liquidated or sold before its maturity by its holder in the secondary market without making any loss thereof. It is present in all instruments, but its degree varies. Liquidity risk is lower in BG as compared to that of BC. Depending upon the credit worthiness of the bond issuer, a differential interest rate is charged. The interest rate charged being low for a credit worthy issuer and vice versa. The marginal or the additional or the premium amount paid by the bondholder to the issuer to cover the liquidity risk involved is known as liquidity risk premium. Now, we will discuss about the relationship between liquidity premium and interest rates. If an asset is more liquid in market, then lower interest rates are needed to compensate lenders for their funds. For example, the loans given to the large corporations are more liquid, that is, they can be easily sold or redeemable than the loans given to the small corporations. Consequently, the equilibrium interest rate offered on loans to the large corporations is lower than those offered to the small businesses. This extra or marginal or additional interest rate that the lenders must receive as compensation for holding the less liquid asset is called the liquidity premium. Here, this liquidity premium is 4%. Next, we shall discuss about interest rate risk and call risk. Differential interest rates leads to fluctuations in bond prices, thereby enhancing the risk to the value of an investor's bond holding. This is called the interest rate risk, that is, the risk of a change in overall level of interest rates. It leads to greater liquidity risk and also imposes an additional source of risk on callable bonds. Callable bonds are the bonds which are subject to the risk that the issuer will call or pay off the bond's face value prior to its maturity. Such bonds are issued at higher coupon rate and the overall level of interest rates then declines, making them the profitable to the bond issuer to call in the old bonds and reissue them with a lower coupon rate. By doing so, the owner of the bond receives the face value earlier than the anticipated. This is called call risk. Moving on to discuss the inflation premium and inflation risk. When a lender provides funds to a borrower, the borrower promises to pay back the principal and interest rate in the future. Since inflation erodes the purchasing power of money, a rupee paid back in future does not purchase the same real quantity of goods as the rupee lent to a borrower today. Due to the impact of the inflation, the real value of the interest receipts earned on loans requires an additional premium to cover the expected rate of inflation. This inflation premium can be seen in the Fisher's equation. I is equals to R plus pi E, where I represents nominal interest rate, R represents the real interest rate, and pi E represents the expected rate of inflation. Thus, the nominal interest rate on loans is equals to the real interest rate plus the expected rate of inflation. The higher the expected rate of inflation, the higher is the nominal interest rate. Inflation risk is the risk that the actual inflation rate will differ from the expected inflation rate. If the inflation rate is higher than the expected, the real interest rate will be lower than the expected. Both the borrowers and the lenders face the inflation risk. Borrowers benefit from the unexpected increases in the inflation rate but are harmed by the unexpected decreases, while lenders benefits from unexpected decreases but are harmed by the unexpected increases. If risk averse, both will require an inflation risk premium when they either borrow or lend. The next is tax risk. Interest rate and bond prices are affected by the tax risk, that is, the risk of changes in the tax treatment of the interest income. Some bonds are subject to personal income tax, while others are exempt interest earnings from the taxation. The latter one charge alone the interest rates and still gives investors the same after-tax interest rates as other bonds whose interest is subject to taxation. Changes in the tax rates of the interest income affect the after-tax return from an investment. The risk of future changes in the tax policy indirectly leads to interest rate risk. This results in reduced prices for the financial assets and the higher market interest rates. However, the prices of bonds which are exempted from taxes often rise during the periods of increased uncertainty about the tax policy. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Risk refers to the outcomes that cannot be exactly predicted, and uncertainty refers to the situation in which one cannot form probabilities for outcomes because of the lack of historical evidences. Expected value is the sum of the outcomes weighted by their probabilities. Variance is a measure of risk. It is a weighted sum of square deviations of potential outcomes from expected outcomes. Based upon the risk preference, the investors can be categorized into three categories: risk averse, risk loving, and risk neutral. Default risk is the risk that a borrower will fail to make the stipulated debt payments. Default risk premium is a premium a borrower must pay to compensate a lender for the risk of default. There is an inverse relationship between bond prices and interest rates. Liquidity risk is the risk concerning the price an investor will receive if a bond or other debt instrument must be liquidated prior to maturity. Liquidity premium is the additional interest rate that lenders must receive as a compensation for the liquidity risk. Liquidity of an asset and its interest rate has a negative relationship. Interest rate risk is the risk of a change in the overall level of interest rates. Call risk is subject to the risk that the issuer will call off the bond's face value prior to its maturity. Inflation risk is the risk that the actual inflation rate will differ from the expected inflation rate, and the additional premium paid to cover the inflation risk is called the inflation risk premium. Lastly, tax risk is the risk of changes in the tax treatment of interest income.